Hello and welcome back to Big Discussions. My name is Dr. Anwar Youssef Dunbar. I am the owner of this channel and I am the founder of the Big Words blog site. All of the information for my blog and my social media contact info are on the banner for this channel. Please check out the blog. Please subscribe or add the link to my RSS feed to your email's feed reader service so you can get all the content that way. And please follow me on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. So today is July 2nd, 2019. I want to get this video done. It's storming outside, and right now the camera's running on electrical power, not battery power. So if the power goes out, then the camera goes out. So it's a pretty strong storm system outside. The bands tend to come through this area, and they're gone pretty quickly, and some of them are pretty strong. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed here. So I was originally supposed to do another interview with someone tonight, but our schedules didn't match up, and I'm traveling tomorrow and need to pack and do some things. So we're gonna move that to another date. But I still wanted to get in another video in, and there's been an idea rolling around in my mind. And so here I am. So I'm traveling tomorrow. I get to get on the train. I get to ride on Amtrak's Northeast Corridor. So I'm pretty excited about that. I've always enjoyed taking the train since I was a kid. So I get to do that tomorrow once I get off work. So I want to thank everyone who has subscribed to the channel thus far. I'm up to 59. Once again, when January comes, it'll be 1 year since I've become a YouTube content creator. My goal is we're at the halfway point now, so my goal is to go above 100. To get 100 or more YouTube subscribers. So let's see if we can make that happen. If you haven't yet, please click the like button for this video. So this idea has been rolling around in my mind for a while, and it's a topic that fascinates me, and it's called Some Advice for the 2020 Election. Or, yeah, it's the 2020 election because they're every 4 years, and the last one was the 2016 election. Let's see. So I've been trying to do my best to stay out of the political talk, though at times it's unavoidable and it's inevitable. I like to think of my channel as an everything channel, like the Bruce Williams show. I made a video about the Bruce Williams show being one of my major influences, and Bruce kind of talked about everything. If you want to check out that video, I made it about a month ago. So sometimes talk about politics and current events it's inevitable. Like Thanos on the Avengers Endgame. So I'm going to start this. Well, so why stay out of political talk? Well, everything's toxic. Anything Trump related is toxic. Things are kind of toxic over on the Democratic side now. They're having their primary, and they're trying to figure out who's going to be the candidate to run against President Trump, and it's already a bit of a circus, and it's actually kind of it's all kind of entertaining. Kamala Harris. I'm sorry, Kamala Harris. There's a whole controversy surrounding her and her husband, and the amount of black men that she incarcerated in California, and whether or not she's actually black, what her true intentions are. All that's very emotionally charged. Reparations, that's very emotionally charged. So a lot of these things, if you dip your toe in the water, you better be prepared for whatever happens next. So I've done my best to stay clear, or just to kind of watch and listen to some of these discussions as they've been unfolding. I grew up in a Democratic household. Both my parents are baby boomers, so they're children of the civil rights era. And both my mother and my father, even after they divorced, were both staunchly Democrat. And I think I could say that for most of my mother's siblings. And my father doesn't have any siblings, but most of my elders have been staunchly Democrat. Now I'm an independent, so I don't affiliate with either party, and I look to vote the issues, and I try to think about what's important to me, independent of party, and even independent of who's running. Don't ask me who I voted for. That's my little secret. So I don't know when I actually became independent. I think it started in graduate school when one of my classmates gave me a copy of Dr. Thomas Sowell's book, Inside American Education. I think that was the name of the title. Inside American Education. And Dr. Thomas Sowell is a writer, economist, intellectual, and he's one of my heroes. He's conservative, but he's one of my heroes. And what's interesting is that the entire 4 years I was at my HBCU, we never talked about Dr. Thomas Sowell or Walter E. Williams, who's another economist, intellectual, conservative. But that's a different topic. But I think right around that time is when I started to become an independent, and I started thinking about things from multiple perspectives. And so I'm going to segue now into the digital space. So, and I'm going to use the digital divide as a jumping off point. So there's something called the digital divide, which is basically the fact that there are citizens or communities or people in the United States who have access to technology, and then there are those who do not, like having this internet in my home. And about a month or so ago, I got my godson a computer because he didn't have a computer in the home, and I realized that he was at a disadvantage because he didn't have a computer in the home. So he was at that point a victim of the digital divide. Those who have the technology have access to certain things, and those who don't have the technology don't have access to those things. And so the digital divide, it's one context is actually owning a computer, and I think another context I realized today is being able to take advantage of all that the technology has to offer. So the technology that we have has almost created multiple worlds within this world we live in. And I'm not talking about the Matrix. Well, maybe we'll be there one day, but the technology has created multiple worlds, multiple spaces, multiple places of congregation. And 2 weeks ago I was talking to a lady friend, and I started talking about uh, red pill discussions and red pill spaces. And for those of you who don't know, there's a red pill movement out there for men, where men are talking about uh, the truths about female nature, and some of the ways they were raised, and feminism, and where society has gone in terms of pair bonding and relationships, and those kinds of things, and what it all means for men now. So my friend had never heard of the terms alpha male or beta male, select, non-select, sexual marketplace value. She never heard of none of any of those things, because she was not privy to the red pill movement or red pill spaces. But these are things that men are talking about in these spaces, and if you're not listening to those discussions, then you're not in the know. But this was all made possible by technology in large part. And so the same thing is true, I think, for politics and current events. A lot of people were shocked over the results of the 2016 election. And a lot of people have been, since then scratching their heads, wondering what has happened. And I was shocked as well, based upon the way the election was being depicted in the mainstream media. But in terms of Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton and all the things Trump was saying, and the recording of the locker room talk and all those things, if you were just watching that, that would have shaped your outlook on how the election was going to turn out. But as I was watching all of that on the mainstream media, I was also looking at what was happening over here on Twitter and YouTube, which are basically alternative digital spaces, where there are other conversations taking place in addition to what we're seeing on the mainstream media. And so one of the advantages of this technology and the social media is that it's given voices to regular people such as myself, to have conversations that people in the mainstream media don't think either are important or don't want to get airplay for any number of reasons. And so, just as an example, on Twitter and on YouTube, there were a lot of black people going hard against Barack Obama and the Obama administration and the Democrats. I won't mention any names, but there were people basically every day just going hard and airing their grievances and talking about their discontent with the Obama administration and their policies. And for example, their endorsement of the LGBTQ. And if you weren't on Twitter watching these discussions, if you weren't on YouTube listening to some of these discussions, you would never know that these things were going on. And so while I was seeing these things on television, I was also seeing these things on social media and on YouTube. Around the election, and again, this is going to be unpopular for me to say, that's when I started seeing on YouTube certain black people going to the Trump rallies and saying, you know what I saw is different than what I saw on television. And the two don't match up. What I saw wasn't as bad, or wasn't bad at all, but what I saw on television looked really, really bad. But if you weren't looking at YouTube and Twitter, you wouldn't have seen these things. And that's the first time I saw someone like Brandon Tatum and people like that. And there are a lot of other black conservatives out there. If you were in those spaces and reading those discussions. You would have seen and experienced what was happening with the Bernie Sanders camp. And I would make the argument that one of the reasons Hillary lost was the discontent of the Bernie Sanders contingency over what happened to Bernie Sanders in the primary. A lot of his voters felt like he was cheated, and thus they didn't go to the polls to support Hillary. But you wouldn't have seen that if you were watching just the mainstream media and television. So someone like my dear mother, she consumes MSNBC every night. You know, Joyanne Reid, Rachel Maddow, and she swears by that. And so what's funny is when I go home now, and me and my brother start talking about some of the stuff that we see on YouTube and Twitter. It's like he and I are kind of living in a different world than she is, because she's consuming MSNBC, but we're consuming what's on social media and in the digital spaces. The digital spaces. And it's very, very interesting to see. I would encourage people also to keep their ears open and pay attention to what you hear. The first time I actually remember hearing a black person talk bad about President Barack Obama and what he had not done for black people was one of the more senior members of the Alumni Association of my HBCU. And this gentleman really, really has some disparaging things to say about President Obama, and I wasn't really sure that it was real, because I figured everyone from the older generations who was black was still basking in the glory of having a black president. But so pay attention to some of the discussions that people are having around you. Let's see, what else have we got here? And the same thing is true for the Clintons. The Clintons were getting beat up and dragged, on social media and YouTube, kind of like Kamala Harris is now, and the Democratic Party is now. And also, once again, I would encourage reading. As I described in my last video, about adult children moving in with parents, that's an idea I was thinking about a lot, but the actual impetus came from the business section of the Washington Post, because I'm always looking for investment ideas now, and I want to keep learning about money. So today, I took a coffee break at work, and I went downstairs to the Starbucks, and I started reading, what do you know, the business section of the Washington Post. And I focused on an editorial by Stephen Pearlstein. And again, the Washington Post is considered a liberal publication, but there is some useful stuff in there as well. In this particular editorial by Stephen Pearlstein, actually, the title was "The Democratic Debates Had Too Many Economic Fairy Tales." So I said, whoa, this looks interesting. Let me read this. And so this gentleman, Stephen Pearlstein, basically went through point by point and talked about a lot the talking points from the Democratic primary elections thus far over the weekend that didn't make any sense. And he basically kind of poked holes and found the flaws in many of the things that they were talking about. And I'm going to just discuss a few of them. And before I do this, I'm going to go back to Dr. Thomas Sowell, and one of my favorite quotes from Dr. Thomas Sowell, which is that life is a series of trade-offs. So anytime you take this, you're going to give up this over here. So when you take advantage of something over here, you may be trading off something over here. So Mr. Pearlstein you know, basically in this article, a couple of points. He talked about how with the healthcare, if we give universal healthcare, things like the quality of care may be compromised, or the expediency of care may be compromised. He talked about solar energy. So if we, move over to solar energy, that's going to, the more we move over to solar energy, the more coal workers are going to be displaced. So that's a trade-off. We're going to do this at the expense of this. And then the last one, which I took my pen and really drew a box around, was the immigration issue. And I'm going to read one sentence here. Actually, I'm going to read two sentences here. And he wrote, and they seemed to have no trouble with the idea that there should be no limit to the number of refugees who we should accept and provide with food, shelter, medical care, transportation, and education for their children until they can find jobs and begin supporting themselves. While that may be the humane thing to do, it is not without a significant economic cost, at least for the first generation. And as Clinton and the leaders in England, France, Germany, and Italy have discovered, the political costs are even higher. So, there's a lot of information in print and in the newspapers that could be very informative as well. So, with that, I'm going to conclude because I have some other things I need to get to tonight. But I just want to make this video just to drive home the point that, don't believe everything you see and hear in the mainstream media. I hate to sound cliche. Read, get multiple perspectives on specific issues, and vote the issues that resonate with you and that are most important to you versus I like this person, I don't like that person, I like this party, I don't like that party. Think about the issues, think about what's really at stake, and as time goes on I'll probably make more videos about this election, but being careful, walking the line, and trying to stay as objective as possible. Oh, and last but not least, be careful talking about these things with family over Thanksgiving dinner or during birthdays, at barbecues and whatever. Be very careful about talking about these things because things can spin out of control very, very easily and very, very quickly once emotions get involved. So with that, I will conclude. Thank you for watching this video. Please like the video, please share it, please subscribe, and have a good holiday weekend. And always remember that your attitude determines your altitude. Take care. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.